So, almost 24 hours we have got without the Fever's new signing attacking Fever fans.
Fever just signed, if you drew up a political activist and created one in a lab.
The Indiana Fever were on the rise, ready to build a winning team with Caitlin Clark leading the way. They had a solid plan, a strong supporting cast, and a fan base buzzing with excitement. But then, out of nowhere, they made a surprising move that no one saw coming, signing Brianna Turner. Within just 24 hours, what was supposed to be a big addition quickly turned into a PR nightmare.
To have your team sign that could bring in and torch your locker room, I mean, literally come in, light it on fire, and burn the entire locker room down, and immediately raise the antennas of anybody in the fan base that's actually paying attention. And it makes you wonder, are we in a situation now with the Indiana Fever? Does their front office understand exactly what their new fan base is? And by new fan base, I mean...
Fever fans didn't even have time to celebrate Brianna Turner's arrival before social media went wild. Why? Because Turner had a history of throwing subtle jabs at Caitlin Clark and her supporters. Fans quickly dug into her past tweets, and what they found wasn't just one bad opinion, it was a pattern. One tweet, in particular, really lit up the internet. After Iowa celebrated their historic season, despite finishing as runners-up in the NCAA tournament, Turner tweeted, *Iowa will hold a celebration to honor the NCAA runner-up, all players and coaches expected respectfully. I'm confused, is this what a runner-up typically does? At first, it seemed like a simple question, but fans saw right through it. It wasn't just about Iowa, it was a clear shot at Caitlin Clark and her supporters. This was the same Caitlin Clark who had revolutionized women's college basketball and led her team to the finals with record-breaking performances.
I mean, look, they just inherited like three times or four times larger fan base than they ever had before. Who do you think we are exactly? I'm just wondering because I think this team's going to be a lot better. I know Stephanie White's trying to build defense. I get it. Find it somewhere else. I'm just going to keep...
Indiana Fever fans were quick to take offense. This wasn't just some random player making a comment about college sports. This was a member of their own team openly mocking the star they had rallied behind. It was a bad look, one that Turner clearly wasn't prepared for.
And by the way, she's already shown she is going to let what people say on Twitter.
The Indiana Fever were on the rise, ready to build a winning team with Caitlin Clark leading the way. They had a solid plan, a great supporting cast, and an excited fan base. But then, out of nowhere, they made a move no one saw coming, signing Brianna Turner. Within just 24 hours, what was meant to be a big addition quickly became a public relations disaster. Fans didn't even get to celebrate Turner's arrival before social media exploded. Why? Because Turner had a history of throwing subtle jabs at Clark and her supporters. Fans immediately started digging up her old tweets, and what they found wasn't just one bad comment, it was a pattern. One tweet, in particular, caused an uproar. When Iowa celebrated their historic season, despite finishing as NCAA runners-up, Turner tweeted, *Iowa will hold a celebration to honor the NCAA runner-up, all players and coaches expected respectfully. I'm confused, is this what a runner-up typically does? At first glance, it might have seemed like a simple question. But fans quickly realized it wasn't about Iowa at all. It was a direct jab at Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeye fans who supported her. This was the same Caitlin Clark who had just revolutionized women's college basketball and led her team to the finals with record-breaking performances. Fever fans were furious. This wasn't just any player making a comment about college sports, this was a member of their team openly mocking the star they had rallied behind. Turner seemed completely unprepared for the backlash. Instead of apologizing or clarifying, she doubled down when fans called her out, replying with, *feel free to unfollow me or block me if that is bothersome to you. That was it. No apology, no attempt to connect with the Fever fanbase, just a blatant dismissal of the very people who were supposed to support her. And from that moment, things spiraled out of control. The Fever front office probably didn't anticipate such a massive backlash when they signed Turner. On paper, she was supposed to be a defensive asset, a veteran presence to help lead the team alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. But in less than a day, she managed to turn the entire fanbase against her. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to undo the damage. Fans weren't just upset, they were demanding she be cut from the team. Turner had alienated the very people she was supposed to be playing for. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to care. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about one tweet, it's about the growing divide in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark never asked for this drama, but somehow she keeps finding herself at the center of it. From the moment Clark entered the league, she's been treated differently. Some players, like Angel Reese and Chin Carter, have openly gone after her on the court. Others, like Brianna Turner, have taken shots online. The pattern is clear, there's a group of players who resent the attention Clark gets, and instead of embracing what she brings to the game, they've chosen to push back. Let's be clear, Caitlin Clark isn't the first great player in the WNBA. But she is the first to bring this level of national attention. She's the first player in years to get casual fans invested in women's basketball. Her success is why games are selling out, and TV ratings have skyrocketed. Yet, some players still see her as a threat rather than an opportunity. Turner's tweet wasn't just about Iowa. It was about everything Caitlin Clark represents, the changing landscape of women's basketball. For the first time ever, a rookie is the face of the league. That's what Turner was really pushing back against, and it backfired badly. The Indiana Fever organization is now in a tough spot. They thought they were making a smart basketball move by signing Turner, but instead, they found themselves in the middle of a PR disaster. The fans are furious, and it's clear that this issue isn't going to blow over anytime soon. So, what should the Fever do? Do they try to smooth things over and hope it passes, or do they cut their losses and move on before it becomes an even bigger distraction? At the end of the day, this isn't just about Brianna Turner. It's about Caitlin Clark and the future of the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark is the franchise player. She's the reason they're relevant again, and every move the team makes needs to prioritize her best interests. Without Clark, the Fever are just another struggling team in the league. Keeping Turner doesn't make sense. She's not a superstar, she's not a vital piece to the team. She's a defensive role player who's just created more trouble than she's worth. If the Fever want to build a championship culture, they need to make decisions like a team serious about winning. Keeping a player who's alienated the fanbase and disrespected the franchise's star player isn't the way to do that. Caitlin Clark is the future of this team, and if Turner can't get on board with that, she doesn't belong in Indiana. The Fever front office needs to realize that quickly because, one thing is certain, the fans won't forgive this, and if Turner stays on the roster, the controversy will only grow. Turner's situation wasn't just another WNBA Twitter moment, it became a defining controversy for the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark, and the league as a whole. The backlash was more than just fan outrage. It sparked discussions across the media, basketball forums, and even among players. The Fever stayed silent, hoping it would blow over, but the longer they waited, the worse it got. Fans were relentless, demanding answers. The situation had real-world consequences. The Fever weren't just dealing with fans, they had a locker room to manage. Caitlin Clark had just started settling into her new role, and now she was dealing with a teammate who had already made it clear where she stood. That tension was palpable, and the Fever coaching staff knew it. They had worked hard to create a positive environment focused on respect and winning, and the last thing they needed was a distraction, especially one coming from within the team. This wasn't just about Caitlin Clark versus Brianna Turner, it was about the message it sent to the whole team. If the Fever allowed a player to take shots at their star player with zero consequences, what kind of organization would that be? Leadership is tested in moments like these, and the Fever hesitated, which only created doubt. Caitlin Clark had nothing to do with this drama. She's not the type to get involved in Twitter feuds. She's focused on basketball. But she's aware of the situation, and she knows that players like Turner are pushing back against her success. This isn't fair to Clark. She should be focused on her first full season and building chemistry with her teammates. Instead, she's caught in the middle of a controversy she didn't create. Despite all of it, Clark has remained professional. She's never lashed out, never responded to the hostility. Fans are rallying behind her because they see how she's been treated. They're not going to let it slide anymore, and that's why Turner's situation escalated so quickly. Fever fans aren't just angry, they're protective. They know what Clark means to this team, and they won't let someone tear it down. Now the Fever are at a crossroads. Do they cut Turner to send a message about respecting their star player? Do they try to smooth things over and hope fans move on? Or do they do nothing and risk alienating their entire fanbase? In the end, the answer is clear: keeping Turner isn't worth the trouble. She was brought in as a defensive asset, not a franchise player, and her actions created more harm than good. The Fever front office needed to act quickly, and they waited too long. Turner made things worse by doubling down on her position, refusing to apologize or even acknowledge the backlash. At this point, it's clear Turner's time with the Fever is over. The team will likely release her, and they'll move on. But the real question is, will this be the last time players try to take shots at Caitlin Clark? Because if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that Clark is here to stay. The WNBA needs to embrace her, not fight against her. Caitlin Clark brings in new fans, drives record viewership, and attracts mainstream attention. Yet some players still try to tear her down. But it's not working. Fans are more loyal to Clark than ever, and each attack against her only makes her story more compelling. The Fever need to learn from this experience. They need to build around Clark, protect her, and create a culture that supports her success. Because she's not just a great player, she's the future of this franchise. If they make the right moves, Clark could become the face of the entire WNBA. It's time for the Fever to focus on basketball, leave the drama behind, and start winning.